I can actually remember being 9, 10 years old, just prepubescent, having posters of Paul on the wall, which is kind of strange when I think about it now, but I was a huge Beatle fan, and never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I could actually get to the point where I could play with McCartney. I never even expected that. It happened very quickly too, you know, sort of a meteoric rise, and I was a little unprepared for it, to say the least.
Okay. Why was Paul McCartney against Elton John doing Losing His Sky with Diamonds even after Lennon said it was okay?
Paul didn't really have a lot of respect for Elton John. It's as simple as that. I don't think it was anything to do. He felt that 50% of the decision should be his. And at the time, he was not very fond. I don't know why, but he was not very fond of Elton John. I think his opinion changed over the years, but at that particular time, he was not very fond of him. That's as much as I know.
Yes, sir. Have you ever done any work with Phil Collins?
Yeah, I did one record called Playing for Time with an artist called Brian Chapman for RCA Records, where I was available during the day and Phil was available during the night. So I would go in sometimes in the daytime and put percussion on his drum tracks, and then he'd go in at night time, so we would flip-flop. We made the record together, but we never actually met until about 2 years later, and we met in Paris, and it was hysterical. It was, he's a really great guy. I have tremendous respect for him.
Yes, sir.
What's that, Zach?
He wants to see you do some a drum solo, or yeah, we could do that. Want to do a few breaks, a little solo? They don't mind using a set. Oh.
Drums are so boring on that one. I know.
Just a little solo. Come on! Right here. Steve Holley, everybody.
This is going to be very short because I'm going to do a lot of this.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, how about a nice round of applause for our very special guest, Mr. Steve Holley.
Okay, we'll take a couple more questions.
Somebody gave me this and somebody said, you gave me this? No, it's lovely. I like this. I'm going to hang this on my Christmas tree, I promise.
Yes, sir.
What track do you think you do your best drumming on the the Wings album?
What was your best drumming track of the... He's going to scrutinize it when he goes home.
Gosh, I don't know. See, the problem now is that I play everything I did on that record slightly differently. So, Spin It On's got some interesting stuff on it. I like Arrow Through Me because it's controlled, and I have a lot of fondness for that recording because actually it was recorded in Scotland, and I was sleeping in a room above the studio, which is actually a grain store. It's a farmhouse, and we converted it into a studio just for the sessions. And I was up about 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, making some eggs and stuff and toast, and Paul wandered in, and the recordings weren't scheduled to start for another couple of hours. And we actually cut that track ourselves before anybody else got there. It was just recorded with Paul playing piano and me playing drums. Then everything else was added later. So I have fond memories of that.
Yes, sir. Do you collect your own albums, everything you've been playing on or you've done yourself?
I tried to keep as many of them together. Actually, right now, something happened which I am definitely trying to get the track on everything I've recorded, because the British Monopolies Commission, you might not understand this, but to me it means a lot. In London, they decided that the actual act of paying a musician a one-time fee for a recording, regardless of its success, is illegal, and then in their ultimate wisdom they made it retroactive to 1969. So I have to file papers for everything I've recorded since I started making records in 1973. So by the end of next year I'll know just about everything I recorded, but to be honest, there's going to be a lot that I've forgotten. But at the moment I have, I think, 698 titles I can find.
Yes. What was your personal favorite song on Back to the Egg and why?
Boy, that's a tough one. I like a lot of the record. I'm Back to Arrow Through Me Again, I guess, because I do like that a lot. I think Old Siam was a lot of fun to me. Actually, there's a piece of that in the middle which was actually one of my piano parts that I distinctly remember playing to Denny, and then Denny later saying that it was playing it to Paula, saying it was his. And I had a bit of a fight with him about that for 5 minutes, and in the end I just went, oh, go ahead. You know, and so that one to me is special to me because there's one little section that I feel is mine, so completely controlled by me anyway, or written by me, whatever. But I don't get the acknowledgement as a writer, but I get the satisfaction of knowing that I influenced it. So that's fun for me.
Yes, sir.
Can you name 5 of your favorite drummers?
Could you name 5 of your favorite drummers?
Yes. It would be Steve Gadd, Jim Keltner, John Bonham, Charlie Watts, Ringo Starr.
Yeah.
Good choice.
But I could go on I could go on a lot further, of course. But, I mean, that's just.
5 more?
I'm not even getting into Philly Joe Jones. I'm not even getting into Buddy Rich, Art Blakey, Gene Crow. I mean, you know, it just goes on and on and on. I mean, there's just a whole wealth, you know.
Tony Williams.
Tony Williams, of course. Tony, yeah.
Yes, sir.
I recently heard that Paul's daughter, your boyfriend, are working on a Wayne's retrospective video release. I wonder if you could contact it about it yet.
Actually, I'd heard about that earlier this year, and I have not been contacted about that. However, I am in contact now again with MPL, and we're trying to find an email for them, but I don't think there is one. It seems to be all set up all over the place. But I've been talking to MPL in New York, and I've heard about this, but nothing official yet.
He's in the back. Did he ever play with Ringo Starr? Did you ever work with Ringo Starr?
I played with someone that looked an awful lot like him. No, I never played with Ringo, but I did have the pleasure of meeting him once, although I doubt that he would ever remember it. And I also met George, but I never met John. And part of the reason I found myself in New York was I really, really wanted to make music with John at some point. Now, of course, I was robbed of that opportunity, but that was the only Beatle I never met. But I did meet Ringo. Never played with him. Would love to sometime. Would absolutely love to.
Yes, sir, right here.
In the London Town session, Paul and yourself recorded Water Spout. Do you know why it wasn't recorded on an album?
London Town Sessions. We just talked about that song today.
Yeah, it's the whole concept of cold cuts was supposed to be hot hits and cold cuts, which you may or may not know. And CBS Records at their time, after just signing Paul, were impatient. They didn't want to wait for us to finish the B-sides. So it came out as, you know, just another greatest hits record, which is unfortunate. Cold Cuts is a collection of outtakes off of all of the albums. And the thing I liked about it was anybody that ever played with Wings in any way, shape or form would have been recognized on that. And to me, that would have been the ultimate album, the double album of hits and cold cuts. I think it would have been tremendous, and I wish they'd waited for it. But That's what I understood. Business-wise, they didn't want to wait. They put out a greatest hits records for Christmas or something. And I think Waterspout there was a succession of songs. Coming Up was originally a cold cut. And I just said, man, you got to put this out. This is fantastic, you know. And Waterspout to me is another one of those songs. I think if that was generally released at almost any point in time in the last 20 years, it would be a smash. It's great. It's just great.
Did he ever express desire putting it out?
Yeah, I was trying to talk him into it, but I think I talked him into 2 at that point, and they were both hits. Goodnight Tonight and Coming Up were both hits. And they were previously recorded prior to my being involved with the band. And when I heard that tape of those selections, this stuff is fantastic. You've got 3 number 1s here without question, you know. And 2 of them went out. Coming Up was number 1. Goodnight Tonight didn't quite make it, but it was a big success, and I'm sure Waterspout would have followed it. I don't know if he was upset that I was picking the songs like that or what, but that never got released for some reason.
Okay. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
Do you remember what it was like the first time you met Paul? Were you really nervous about it?
Do you remember when you met Paul, were you nervous in the first time?
I was really, really nervous, yeah. I mean, actually, the very first time I met him, I probably wasn't because it was at the party. But officially meeting him with the prospect of being a band member, I was mortified. And he was about 2 hours late for the appointment too, so I had all this time. Everything just rushing through the brain. It was a frightening experience, but he has a very calming way about him. But it is terrifying. And I think some of the point about that is that out of respect and admiration and all kinds of things and your own fear, I didn't start doing good work until it was over. It was over before I really felt comfortable enough with him to generate what I thought was my potential. That's the only thing that I regret. You know.
Yes, sir. What do you think about the new music of today and the new bands that are coming up?
It's fantastic. I mean, I think there's some tremendous music out there, which my daughter brings to me with alarming regularity, and it's great. I mean, I love some of the bands out there right now. I might be hard pushed to name them, but the songs, I think you know, the pop music is just fantastic right now. It's as healthy as it's ever been, probably more so.
I'm going to take one more question.
What do you think of Paul's music afterwards? There are some people who prefer the whole experience over the experience, and there are some who like his age up.
Question was, what does he think of Paul's music after Wings, period, versus Wings?
To me, that's a simple question. To be brutally honest, I think that Paul's music is a mixture of superb and average, and sometimes he lets a lot of stuff out that a lot of artists would shelve. But he does that, you know, willingly, and it's completely within his rights to do whatever he pleases. So I think really it's not a question of the music during Wings. I think there's good and bad throughout the entire period. It's just the way he is, and stuff that some people find appalling, other people love. So it's hard to say who's right and who's wrong. I just think it's constantly that turmoil. And I think that, curiously enough, that John Lennon was the guy that straightened most of that stuff out, you know. And you can hear it with the Beatles stuff, the relationship. It is very obvious, you know, where you go, well, you can't do this, let's do it this way. You know, and he'd immediately change things. And he had that working arrangement with Denny for a while, and he had it with Eric Stewart for a while. And I just think constantly it's that push and pull thing, but if he has nobody reining him in and telling him to, you know, this can't work or this is too whatever, I think that's what tends to happen. It's not in any way a criticism. I think it's great that he does what he does, and I love his music, so, you know. But it's good and bad all throughout.
Okay, one more.
Hey, when you guys make an album, it was sometimes it's more songs than the album. Who makes the choice of putting those songs on the album, and who's making the choice to leave the others out?
Songs that don't make the album, who makes the choice? What goes on and what doesn't go on, and where do they go?
It's a little different every time, but essentially the process is you want to go into the studio with more material than you need, so that hopefully you can glean the best possible overall. Right, so sometimes a song can be tremendous, but it just doesn't fit.